in order to get an emergency under control. So I was sympathetic to that at the beginning of COVID. It seemed like.
And yet, had Mark Zuckerberg been wise and made a better choice and realized that it's in dialogue and people speaking up and talking about this and debating about it that will likely save lives, then he could have saved more lives. But instead, he chose to be a little dictator. You know, this free speech stuff is really, it pisses me off, because I understand, obviously, you know, your free speech doesn't go to the point where you can threaten people with violence and that, you know, there's those certain limitations. But like this argument that he's making is bullshit. Because this is how a government then is able to use safety and security to take away your rights. It is. And Benjamin Franklin, it's his quote I always remember about, if you want to give up liberty for security, then you'll have neither. Because you won't get them back. So his argument here is that, well, you know, you can't, you know, yell fire in a movie theater, so I had to consider safety. It's like, no, you weren't considering safety. You just wanted to be a little dictator. That's what he wanted. Because safety, like many people have said, would have been, no, there should be dialogue online about this. But he decided he wanted to listen to one person, Fauci and the CDC, and everything they did was wrong. Was all the people they silenced that were saying the right thing, had they allowed, though not removed those voices, it would have saved lives. So yeah, that's the danger with when you start playing God with free speech, then then you have some deaths on your hands. America's Constitution is about that the amendments are not to be touched because man did not give us those. Those are rights given by God. So I don't care if you're in a black robe on the Supreme Court there. You don't have a right to take what God has given. And they try to be careful with this, but you never know. Which, like, here's the thing, because I already read from a couple of different news agencies that say that the Supreme Court is likely going to uphold the ban of TikTok. So that means everybody that votes that way, they should be removed from the court. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what amendment has to be done. They should not, because they will have been responsible for silencing 170 million Americans. They will be responsible for doing the most treasonous thing against our Constitution. And it's sad because none of them even understand TikTok. They don't. They're not on it. They don't go on it. But they will have been responsible for silencing 170 million Americans. Now, Amy Coney Barrett, who Trump appointed, I think she's a snob. But she was saying, but TikTok doesn't have to go away or disappear. It just has to divest, or it has to turn over its source, its algorithm. Yeah, they don't. So she's basically trying to get off that way by saying, well, it's their choice if they go away. Okay, Amy Coney Barrett, if that you vote for banning it, then your ass should be removed from the court. Because if you should not be a judge if you cannot protect freedom of speech. If you are going to make bullshit excuses like that and not realize you're supposed to stand on the side of the Constitution, and none of you black robes are God. And since God gave us the right, how dare any of you even consider taking it? But this is what happens. It's freedom of speech they don't want. And because here's the thing, even Washington himself said, without freedom of speech, dumb and stupid they will be. And if they understood anything, if any of those black robes there understood that there's no American platform that allows free speech, and that's why there's 170 million Americans on TikTok, then maybe that would make them rethink. But you know what? The lawyer for TikTok, he said it exactly what this is all about. He said the reason they don't want TikTok is because Americans may come across something and they will have a different thought about something. And that's what powers that be don't want. And that's exactly right. So if the Supreme Court, the people, if they do uphold that ban, then I would say one of the first things, I understand they have lifetime appointments that can be changed. Everything possible will have to be done to have that changed. We cannot, if we're going to have justices on the court that can't even uphold the First Amendment, then what good are they? Like, to me, this shouldn't have been such a big deal. Like, just, you shouldn't even be, considering this. The government should not be interfering with free speech. So if we're going to have courts now that are going to make excuses for why they're going to allow this, then what is the point of the court? Then it's a justice system that doesn't respect what the founders were about. But here's part of the problem, too, is they don't acknowledge the Declaration of Independence. That's what's sad, because it's in the Declaration of Independence that it says God-given rights. And we know the founders, that's what they were about, was that God gave these rights so no man can take them away. Because they knew that when they would take them is during an emergency. That's what every country will do. Well, no, we have to take them now, but you'll never get those liberties back. So, but they acknowledge the Constitution, and some of them, okay, like Clarence Thomas, I think he considers the Declaration of Independence, even though they know that these are God-given rights. So I'm not sure why they're carrying on with all this. Like, this is such a delicate one, you shouldn't even be messing with it. So when I read that they're likely going to hold it up, I thought, well, then that just shows they're corrupt. And every single one of them that hold that up, everything possible should be done to have them removed. Because if they can't protect that most fundamental right, then I would say they don't even respect our Constitution to begin with.